everybody. So I'm recording in my car, first of all. I would just like to acknowledge because I had to be out of the house. So I wanted to quickly give you some feedback on your Sonny's Blues summary, like what I did with the, not the Sonny Blues summary, the Sonny's Bebop summary. And then also give you some information that I think will help you with writing this paper, this response to Sherard's piece. So you guys did a really nice job on the summaries, where you guys on the discussion board from the week 5 module, where you were each summarizing different pages. That was a challenging task. You guys did a nice job. In the interest of time, what I ended up doing was, in most cases, I commented on just like one person's post about a certain page. So in other words, like if 3 people posted on page 1, I just commented on one person's, and I chose based on like whose I felt like was the most complete and accurate at this point, and gave feedback to that one, because the goal here is like, so the idea is you could then read that person's summary of page 1 plus my feedback on it, maybe go back and reread page 1 yourself, work out in your head what you feel like it all means, and then do your summary. So I definitely recommend rereading the article as you're going through looking at the summaries on the discussion board post, and as you're looking at my feedback. And I want to emphasize that, please don't feel bad or whatever if I didn't comment on yours. I was just trying to be really practical and go for like the ones that hit the most of the points on the page, and then give a little extra feedback. Okay, so that's that. The other thing that I wanted to say was that I realized as I was going back through that article and back through the Sherard, your summaries of the article, that it would be helpful for you to kind of know there's this context that Sherard is arguing this in that I think is like clear to me, because I've taught this story a lot of times and I'm familiar with some of the other criticism, but it probably isn't clear to you, which is that she's making such a big deal out of the importance of paying attention to the fact that the music that Sonny plays is bebop, right? And that it's not just general blues or generic jazz, it's specifically bebop, and what that means in terms of Black culture and history at that time, right? And basically, just so you guys know, what she's doing is taking what I would call a new historicist approach, a new historical approach to the text, meaning she's trying to contextualize Sonny's Blues in a very specific historical moment. And that specific historical moment is the rise of bebop, which was happening right then as a moment of counterculture in opposition to jazz and other types of jazz and blues, which had become very mainstream and also very white at this time, right? And that's her point about Louis Armstrong, but also about Benny Goodman and etc. Okay. Anyway, so that's what she's doing. The reason that, or the backdrop that she's doing that in, though, is that there have been a lot of readings in Sonny's Blues that don't pay attention to the music in the way she is, right? She's really looking at the music like, this is specifically bebop, this is specifically Harlem during the rise of bebop, and like, here's what bebop meant in Harlem at this time, right? There's another way to read the story that doesn't take that same new historicist approach, which is, by the way, a type of literary criticism. New historicism tries to read a text very specifically in the cultural context and moment in which it was written. There's another way to analyze the story where the music, and she kind of says this at the beginning of the article, where the music is more about just like a bridge. I think she says this, a bridge for the narrator to cross to get closer to Sonny. And that's a very common way to read the story. So, in other words, like, the narrator and Sonny are very distant, right? The mother has asked the narrator to look out for his brother, and let him know that he's there. As we discussed in class 2 weeks, not this week, but last week, the narrator is unable to do that. Like, he doesn't get it. And he thinks his job is to kind of like control Sonny or act like Sonny's authority figure and prevent Sonny from making bad choices. And so what has to happen over the course of the story is that the narrator has to go from kind of trying to control Sonny and judge Sonny to being unconditionally loving of Sonny, right? And being a support for Sonny, no matter how they're different, right? That's what the mother means when she says you've got to let him know you're there. So if you pay attention to the music in the story that way, and to the fact that it's called Sonny's Blues from that perspective, what you see is the narrator going from not being able to listen or relate to Sonny to learning how to listen and to Sonny and to what Sonny's saying. And that becomes sort of like epitomized in that final scene where he listens to Sonny's music, and Sonny's music also allows him to like not only empathize with and listen to Sonny, but also maybe to sort of empathize with and listen to his own emotions. So I'm going to quickly take you through some passages that support that reading, because that's really what Sherrard is looking at this in contrast to, and that might help you decide, like, do you agree or disagree with her? Like, do you feel like it's important to look at the music in its cultural context, the way she is, or do you feel like it's equally as important to acknowledge the music as like this way that the brothers come together? So I want to go to page, this is the part with no page numbers. Cool. Perfect. Okay, well, I'm going to the scene where actually we left off in class when we were doing our Zoom a week ago. And it's where the mother has asked the narrator to promise to take care of Sonny. The narrator has said, I won't let anything happen to him. The mother has said, you may not be able to stop things from happening, but you've got to let him know you're there, right? And then Sonny and the narrator don't see each other really again until the narrator comes home for the mother's funeral. And then Sonny and the narrator have that conversation about, like, what is Sonny going to do? And this is when Sonny says, I want to be a musician. And the narrator doesn't like that. He associates that with what his father called good time people, right? He doesn't think it's a serious job. And then Sonny and the narrator have that interaction about, you know, you want to be a jazz musician, like who? Like Louis Armstrong? No, none of that down-home crap. We like, well, who's a musician you like? Bird. And the narrator doesn't know who that is, right? Okay, so in that scene, you know, basically what we know, because of, you know, dramatic irony, because we know about Sonny more than the narrator does in that moment, is that Sonny wants to get out of Harlem because he's afraid of his own addiction, right? The narrator doesn't know that, and so the Sonny's saying, I want to join the army. They won't care that I'm too young. I'll just lie about my age. I want to go to India. I want to get out of here. I don't want to finish school. And the narrator doesn't hear that, won't listen to that. And so on this page here, I think this is going to highlight for you. So, you know, Sonny says, you know, I'm not learning anything in school. I want to get out of here. And the narrator says, Sonny, I said, I know how you feel, but if you don't finish school now, you're going to be sorry later that you didn't. I grabbed him by the shoulders, and you only got another year. It ain't so bad, and I'll come back, and I swear I'll help you do whatever you want to do. Just try to put up with it till I come back. Will you do that, please? Will you please do that for me? He didn't answer, and he wouldn't look at me. Sonny, you hear me? He pulled away. I hear you, but you never hear anything I say. I didn't know what to say to that. He looked out of the window and then back at me. Okay, he said, I'll try. So, and then this goes into, you know, Sonny moving into Isabel's and that not going well, and Sonny eventually, like, doesn't go to school anymore, and then, like, kind of runs away or leaves Isabel's. So, in that moment, what's very clear for us is that the narrator, A, is really having trouble empathizing with Sonny, like, doesn't understand where Sonny's coming from at all. And B, can't listen, right? He cannot listen to his brother. And that has to do with his judgment of his brother and his fear about what his brother's doing, right? It makes it impossible for him to really listen to Sonny. Okay, so then, let's see. I'm going to move forward here. Then we get the scene. Hey, why isn't this working? Okay, to be continued in the next video. Please hold.